podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premier Networks on Sunday, February 7th, 2021. This is episode 1769. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by Uber for Business. Right now, for a limited time, get a $50 voucher when you create your first vouchers campaign and spend $200. Go to uber.com/techguy to learn more. And by Nareva. Getting your audio ready for meetings back in the office, Nareva audio is designed for distancing. It automatically adapts to new room configurations, so you're ready for the new normal and whatever comes next. Learn more at nareva.com/twit. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smart watches, all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo. The phone number 888-827-5536. That's toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. You still can reach me if you call. If you want to call from somewhere else in the world, just use Skype, and it's a toll free number, so it won't even use any of your Skype credits. 888-827-5536. We're opening the lines now. Kim is there. Kim Schaffer. She's answering the phone. She's ready to go. Heat them up, because we need the heat. It's a little chilly in the studio. Heat up the lines for Kim. She can warm her hands over the hot phone. Oh, it's cold. Website, we put everything that you hear on the show, I put up there. Actually, I don't. James DeRuvo, our scribe, puts up there. He writes it all down, so you don't have to keep track of anything. You could just bathe in the luxurious warmth of this fine program. Let it waft over you, serene in the confidence that you know there'll be everything you need to know will be there at techguylabs.com. And no, nary a penny charge. It costs you nothing. You just go there, you browse, you peruse, you search at no cost, no sign up, no nothing. We've torn down the walls and made it open to all. I never had any walls. So there you go. techguylabs.com. Good thing to keep in mind. Everything is there, including a link to our chat room, which is always running, full of fine people. We call them Team Tech Guy. Well, I call them that. They call themselves, old chef guy and Tech Dino and Loquacious V2 and Nerdette and Scooter X. They call themselves strange names. Do you have a handle? If you, a lot of these handles come from your youth. You got on AOL, Instant Messenger, AIM, or, something like that, and you gave yourself a handle, double base 65 or something, and then it never changes. And so it's always a little bit of your youth, you're dragging it along with you into old age. I just use my name, Leo, because I'm an old guy. We didn't have handles when I was a kid. We barely had record players. It was the olden days, and kerosene lanterns, and we didn't have handles. But now, if you grew up in the internet era, which means nowadays if you're under 40, I guess, millennials. Somebody told me the way you can tell, you can figure out what age a millennial is that Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, is the oldest millennial. So if you're Zuck's age or younger, you're a millennial, or I guess there's something beyond millennials now. Millennials, we typically, by the way, Zuck was born in 84. He's 36. So, and that's roughly, what we call a millennial. Somebody born in the 80s or 90s. Children of the baby boomers and early Gen Xers. Such silly stuff. And then there's millennials, and then there were Zoomers, which is kind of more appropriate in this day and age. Anybody who grew up in COVID-19 era would be a Zoomer. No, it's not. Zoomers are 97 through 2012, according to Wikipedia, the major generations of the Western world. And then after 2010, or even I guess 2012, anybody born in the last 8 years is, according to Wikipedia, Generation Alpha. Anyway, Mick, who's in our chat room, his name is Mick, right? He said, Mick's my lifelong nickname, except for the 20 years in the Air Force. What they calling you in the Air Force? Probably had one of them, Top Gun names, I would imagine. Tokyo Tony, that's like his real name plus where he used to live, Tokyo. That makes sense. Chumley, don't know what that is. Isn't that a cartoon character, the walrus Chumley? So they all have different names. They're from their real name. And I guess that makes sense. It's a way that you can take on a persona. You can be somebody else. I just missed it. Because I'm a baby boomer. Let's see. There was the lost generation at the turn of the century. And then there was the silent generation. No. After the lost generation was the greatest generation, the World War II generation. Then the silent generation, a.k.a. the lucky few. I don't know why. Then baby boomers, a.k.a. the me generation. Remember that? They called us the me generation because all we cared about is ourselves. Then along came the millennials and we realized, maybe we weren't. Maybe we weren't the worst. Baby boomers, me generation, Generation X, millennials, Generation Y, Zoomers, Generation Z. That's a problem if you're going to go XYZ. Then where do you go? Generation Alpha. It's all made up. Just like your chat room handles. All made up. I need a good chat room handle. What should I be? I should have a chat room handle. Often it's something that a TV show you liked or a cartoon character you loved. Professor Laura, do you have a handle? Like, what did you use on AIM or whatever it was when you're too young for AIM, probably.
Wasn't allowed on AIM.
You weren't allowed on AIM. No, young lady, you have to be 12. Wait till you're in middle school, then you can get on AIM. I think Professor Laura is a good name. I think that's a good name. You could use that. She doesn't want to tell me her handle. I know she has a handle. Anybody of a certain age, a young person, they have a handle. My daughter, who's now 28, when she was on AIM, had a ridiculous handle. Got a base, not a life. First of all, a couple of problems with that. Too long. Second of all, she played a bass for 5 minutes, okay? She wasn't, but that's what you do when you're young. You take on these personas. And you think tech guy, is that a handle? Yeah, I guess it is. I could be the tech guy. I wouldn't want to go in a chat room and call myself the tech guy. That's a little too gaudy. Looks like the Apple car might really be real. We've been hearing rumors about this for the longest darn time. Then Hyundai said, oh, yeah, we're talking to Apple. And then they quickly, after Apple called them up and said, do you really want to say that? And Hyundai said, no, that wasn't us. But apparently it's true. Hyundai's Kia Motors, which is their subsidiary, is rumored to be working with Apple. The rumor is a $3.6 billion investment in Kia, a manufacturing department. This is according to a Korean site. So I don't know. I don't know what their track record is on these rumors. It's oddly specific, though. That always makes me think maybe it's real. They would see Kia building Apple cars. It has a facility in Georgia, so it would be actually in the U.S., which I think is smart if you're Apple. Don't build them in Korea. Build them in Georgia. That's good. We'll be watching. Apparently, this deal could be signed in as little as 10 days. Now, when would we get an Apple car? I have heard numbers ranging from next year to 2030. But this rumor is that they would try to get Apple cars out in the 2024 timeframe, which is pretty soon. Apple and Kia, according to this rumor, plan to produce 100,000 vehicles a year. That's a lot. Took Tesla a while to build up to that, ramp up to that. But hey, Kia's built cars before. And what would these cars be? They'd be electric. They'd be self-driving. They'd be Apple-y. I don't know what that means. Would they? I don't know what. If Apple built a car, what would it look like? Would it have no buttons? Would the charging port be on the bottom? I don't know. You don't. We'll have to. We'll have to find out. Hyundai has a battery electric vehicle platform they could use, so they've been doing this for a while. 2024, 2025. Would you buy an Apple car? What would an Apple car look like? 8888 Ask Leo. That's my phone number. We don't have to talk about that. We can talk because I know what you really want to talk about. Why won't my computer work or that kind of thing? We can do that too. 8888 Ask Leo. TechGuyLabs.com is the website. We'll get to your calls in just a bit. Coming up, we got a big day today. We've got Sam Abuelsamid, the car guy, coming up in about 15 minutes, and Rod Pyle, our space guy, will be joining us in hour number 3 and hour number 2. We're going to do photography. Chris Marquardt. So we got a lot of fun planned for you. Fun. It's going to be fun. And I understand there's a big game today, so I'll get off the air in time for you to watch the big game. Maybe. I'll try. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, call on Kim Schaffer. Get it? I get it. I finally get it. Call me. Kim Schaffer, our phone angel. We decided to have a different theme every week, every day.
I like it.
And Lady Laura is good. Call Me by Blondie for your theme. She's our unbreakable phone angel. When you call 8888 Ask Leo, that's who you get right there.
Blondie. That's been a nickname of mine in the past.
Blondie?
But not so blonde anymore.
No. You were blonder in your ute?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Little towhead.
Aw.
Aw.
Well, Blondie, who should I talk to today?
Let's go to Jim in Sioux Falls, can you put your home phone number on a Tracfone?
Why not?
Can you?
I don't know. Thank you, Kim. Hello, Jim.
Hello, good morning.
That's a good question. You got a Tracfone, which is one of those pay-as-you-go phones, and they're very affordable. There is a rule. The FCC has a number porting rule that says you have to be number portability. Port is short for portability. So there is a rule that you should be able to keep your phone number. Now, the question is, you have a landline, right?
Yeah.
And you want to move your landline to a cell phone.
Yes.
So here's the you can in fact port from a wireline phone to a wireless phone, according to the Federal Communications Commission. There may be a period when you have two telephones with the same number. Ooh. Ask your new wireless company whether you'll be able to continue using your current wireline number during the transfer process. Wireless 911 location and callback services, of course, might be affected because the problem with 911, and people should always remember this with a cell phone. With a landline, 911 knows your address. It's your home address. It's where the phone is with a landline. But when you get to a cell phone, you're moving around. So there's various solutions around this. They call it E911. And if you're lucky enough to live in an area where the 911 facilities are more modern, they will get a GPS location from your phone, which is great. Then they know exactly where you are. You could be out in a field somewhere, and they'd be able to find you. So that's something to keep in mind. 911 will now be moved to E911. If they don't have modern equipment, you'll get a regional 911 center that's roughly where you are, and then you'll have to say on the phone, I'm here in the field, the address is, and then they would come there. So that might affect your 911. That's something to keep in mind. It also may initially you may have a problem getting called back if you get disconnected, but they say that should resolve. So you can, in theory, FCC's number portability rules require that your landline, your wireline company, port over to your cell phone, to your Tracfone. So yeah, you can do that. Just remember the 911 issue. That's the only tough one. It also says, and this is again from the FCC, if you're moving to a new geographic area, you might lose your phone number because, I guess, of the area code. But, I have an area code for Baltimore here in Northern California. I never lived in Baltimore. I just got it because I could get a vanity number. And so that worked okay, and I use that for my cell phone line. Your rural wireline service companies may have waivers from state authorities, so they may say, no, you can't port it there for technical reasons. But if you have a normal, if you're with AT&T or, Verizon and you want to go to the Tracfone, you should be able to port it. The FCC requires it. I will put the FCC guide to this in our show notes so you can read all the ins and outs. The only thing, again, I would say is just be aware of the 911 ramifications. Okay? Hey, thanks for the call. It's a good question. This was a big deal some years ago when the FCC said this because, in a way that meant that the phone company could keep you hostage because you've had a phone number for a long time. Everybody knows you by that line number and all that stuff. So, and that was why the FCC changed that rule. They've required portability. You shouldn't be held hostage by your phone number. Joe in Knoxville, Tennessee. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Joe.
Hello. You were talking earlier about nicknames.
Yeah, what's your handle?
Well, it has to do with what state I live in and one of my hobbies.
Okay.
I use it on a lot of websites I go on to that have chat rooms and stuff. It's Tennessee Stargazer.
See, I love that. It says something about you. It's not too weird. I like it. I like it when it's got some roots in it. It's not your real name, and I understand a lot of times people don't want to use their real name online. That makes perfect sense.
I started using it because I've always had an interest in astronomy, and
perfect.
I got involved with the University of Tennessee's astronomy outreach program here in Knoxville. And for the last few years, I haven't been able to do much because of caring for elderly parents and stuff. But
you know what? The
anyway,
stars will wait. The stars will wait for you, Joe. They'll be there when you come back.
Yeah. But we did do programs at the national parks.
How cool! I love that. I did that. We visited Victoria, British Columbia, and we did that, and it was so much fun. Our kids loved it. Highly recommend doing that.
Yeah.
Hey, I only have a minute left. Did you have a question?
Epson. They seemed to do a lot of firmware updates, and I discovered what was going on with a problem I had. They kill serial number steam cartridges.
Oh.
I have two printers, same model, and within a week, when they both the machines updated firmware.
Are you using official Epson cartridges or are you using third-party cartridges?
I'm using third-party.
Yeah, it really bugs me when companies do that. I thought Epson did not do that, but apparently they...
It's industrial sabotage as far as
I agree. It's copy protection. You have to use our cartridges. I agree.
If you own the equipment, it's your right to use what you want.
I agree with you. I think I heard they stopped doing that. Some other companies still do that. It's not right. I wish there were a solution. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. That's terrible. I agree with you. It's industrial sabotage. You own it. You should be able to use whatever. I guess their rationale is, if you use third-party cartridges, you could screw up your machine. Well, it's my machine. I don't mind screwing it up. Right?
I had an earlier model Epson that I had got some software that would let me write to the cartridges. This was, 20 years ago. And now the new cartridges.
I thought Epson didn't do this. I know a lot of companies do it because they want you to buy their overpriced cartridges. But I thought Epson was one of the good guys. Make sure you clean the contacts in your cartridge and all that. But I'll tell you what.
Cartridges out and reseated them, and they still wouldn't.
Still wouldn't do it.
I even pulled a cartridge out of the box from that was a different cartridge from the same vendor that I had bought from. Put it in, it would not even recognize it.
So it's basically copy protection, which I hate. There are articles I'm seeing that how to get an Epson printer to recognize clone cartridges. Put in the open the cartridge. Wait for the cartridge cradle to slide in the center. Remove the clone cartridge. Reinsert it in the cartridge cradle. Yeah, that didn't fix, did it? So you did all that.
I took it out and put it back in.
Yeah. I know other companies do that. I'm going to have to do some research. If Epson does it, shame on them. And yeah, let's buy a. Now, if you buy the Eco
Epson printers,
I know. Well, you can. The Eco Tank printers don't use cartridges, so you could do that. Those are the big tanks.
But I'm sure they're going to come up with some way for the ink to have something in it to say,
Oh, I don't think so.
Our ink.
Because that's a chip. They put a chip in that cartridge, and then they have to put the capability on the printer to recognize the chip. I am surprised, frankly, that Epson's doing that. I thought that they did not do. I'm ashamed of that, if that's true. Let me do some research, though. I don't want to besmirch them if they don't do it. I know other companies do it. Lexmark does it. HP does it. I know other companies do it, but I thought Epson was one of the good guys.
One other thing, and I'll let you go. Tell Olivia at Apple to quit calling me. I got 21 calls.
That ain't Olivia. I got bad news for you. Apple does not call you.
Apple iCloud account.
Yeah,
I don't even have an Apple product.
No, I know. That's a scammer pretending. And that, you know what? You'd be surprised how many people that fools. That's a scammer.
I'm Amazon, too.
Yeah. Yeah, they're all fake. No, companies don't call you. They're all fake. They're trying to scam you into giving them money or something like that. I get one for a car warranty. Your car warranty's up. I don't have a car warranty. Forget about it. Our show today brought to you, our podcast today, the Tech Guy podcast, in case you're confused. The Tech Guy podcast today brought to you by Uber for Business. Now, no, everybody knows Uber. But this is something unique. If you have a small business or business of any size, and you want to improve your customer satisfaction and your employer satisfaction, you need to know about Uber for Business. Uber for Business lets you actually create vouchers for a free ride or a discounted ride or a free meal or discounted meal that you can send to anybody. They're simple to send. They're easy to redeem. You have total control over who gets them when they expire, how much they are, what portion of the ride or meal you want to cover. Now, here's the use case. Come to our seminar. We'll buy you a cup of coffee, or we'll buy you lunch. Do our seminar, we'll buy you lunch. See, nowadays, because you can't have seminars at the local, Holiday Inn and have people come over, you could do this. Use Uber as a way to spiff your customers or your employees with rides or meals. It's hard to find. I'm sure you know this in small business. Simple and effective ways to keep employees engaged and customers happy. Even harder nowadays when we have limited face-to-face interaction. Here's a great way to stand out for your customers, to make employees feel extra valued. I think I'm going to have to start doing this. John, I'd like to buy you a cup of coffee. Uber for Business is exactly what your business needs. I mean, you already know about Uber as a great way to get rides and order meals from restaurants you love. But this Uber platform is something I think a lot of people don't know about. Well, a lot of people do. Of 160,000 companies use it. Any company can sign up. It's free to sign up. You can immediately start delivering extra value to the people who matter most in your business. You can email them. You can text them. They can be redeemed with just a tap. Best of all, you only pay for the rides they take or the meals they order. So it doesn't cost you anything to send them a ride or a meal until they actually do it. Right now, for a limited time, you get a $50 voucher when you create your first campaign with Uber for Business. They call it a vouchers campaign. And if you spend of $200 or more. So $50 voucher. If you spend $200 or more, go to Uber, U-B-E-R, you know that, uber.com/techguy. You can learn more. Uber for Business, uber.com/techguy. Some terms and conditions do apply. $50 voucher when you create your first vouchers campaign and spend $200. Uber.com/techguy. I think I should start doing this. Would you like me to send you lunch, John? Okay, it's going up. It started with coffee. Now it's lunch. Pretty soon, it'll be a ride to Zanzibar. I don't know. Uber.com/techguy. Thank you, Uber, for supporting the Tech Guy podcast. Thank you, small business person, entrepreneur, enterprise, however big you are, for using that URL. That way they know that you saw it here. Uber, it supports the show. Uber.com/techguy. Now back to the program. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Sam Abuelsamid. He is our car guy, my automotive expert, principal researcher on automobiles for Guidehouse Insights. He's also a podcaster, wheelbearings.media. He's worked for 2 out of the big 3, right? Am I right?
Yes, I've worked with them, and I've worked with many of the others as a supplier as well.
This week, later today, GM is going to run an ad in the Superb Owl for its cars with Will Ferrell punching a hole in a globe. And it's really, GM is launching a campaign. They kind of started it a couple weeks ago at CES to emphasize that they are going to be the electric vehicle company. It's very interesting.
Yeah, many of the traditional automakers are, now really starting to ramp up their EV efforts. As you mentioned, at CES, GM announced this new marketing campaign that they're launching today. I think it's "Everybody In" is the tagline or something like that. Essentially, what they're trying to say is, EVs are for everybody. They're, we're going to have something for. As soon as they get the charging
network working, I think that'll be the case. Right now, people are somewhat legitimately concerned.
There is that little detail.
Yeah. Now I see you sitting in front of a car that I would very much like to be sitting in. Is that it looks like it's covered with snow, so it's hard to tell. I can't quite see the pony logo, but that looks like the new electric Mustang Mach-E. Oh, look, you're charging it up.
It is.
Look at that.
And that's what I wanted to talk about today was winter charging with an EV or cold weather charging.
How cold is it in Ypsilanti right now?
Let's see. Right now, I think it's up to about 15. It was 9 this morning.
That's hell on battery life, isn't it? Not only do the batteries not work as well, but you have to use a heater in the car, and that uses electricity. So that's hard on batteries.
It is. Batteries, lithium-ion batteries in particular, don't like cold temperatures. Your power output.
Don't they put a heater around the battery though? I mean, don't they heat it up or something?
They do. I mean, there's a cooling system in the battery, and that can be used to heat it up. When you start to charge the battery, it does warm up. So that helps. And as you drive it, the battery will warm up. But having a little bit lower power output when it's this cold is actually probably not such a bad thing because the roads are kind of slippery. You don't want to put too much power to the ground because you're just going to spin the wheels. Yeah. But it does cause some other challenges. So first of all, you mentioned heating. Obviously, with an internal combustion engine, that engine is a great source of waste heat. You've got, coolant flowing through that engine, to take away the heat from the engine so it doesn't get too hot. And that coolant in a traditional car goes through a heat exchanger in the cabin. You pass air through it, and that warms up the air in the cabin. Yeah. With an EV, you don't have that source of waste heat available. So you have to use either a heat pump or some sort of resistive heater to heat the cabin. So, if you live in a cold climate and you want to drive an EV, one of the cool things that they do is they offer a feature called preconditioning. So pretty much every EV out there, you can either in the car directly or through an app that goes with the car, you can program in what time do you want to leave. And, like, for example, Friday morning, I had a meeting that I had to go to. I was leaving at about 8:30 a.m. And so I said, okay, I want my departure time's 8:30 and left the car plugged in overnight. And, I said, I want it warm at 8:30. And so starting around 8 o'clock or so, it starts to heat up the car while it's still plugged in. So it's not drawing juice from the battery.
That's nice. So it's a nice cozy cabin when you get in.
Exactly. And, they've done this, the Chevy Volt did this originally 10 years ago. And pretty much every EV since then does this now because it takes a lot less energy to maintain the temperature than it does to raise it up. So once you warm up the cabin, then you can drive along in cold weather and stay relatively warm without draining your battery quite as much. So that's one thing that was very, very helpful this week. The other thing that you need to keep in mind especially when it's this cold, is that batteries can't take a charge as fast when they're really cold. And this is to everybody. I remember a couple of years ago, my friend Henry Payne, who is the auto reviewer for the Detroit News, he bought a Model 3. And a couple of weeks after he got it, he did a road trip, and he got it in December, and he took a road trip across the state and he went to Indiana and stopped at a supercharger station to charge up along this trip. And he wrote an article, that it was only charging at about 40 or 45 kilowatts, which is less than half of the rated speed for the superchargers at the time. It could go up to about 120. And on Thursday, I went out to do some range testing with this car, and same thing. I went to an Electrify America station to charge it up, and it was only charging at about 48 kilowatts. Even though the Mach-E is capable of charging it up to 150 kilowatts.
How long does it take to fill up the tank at 48 kilowatts?
It would take probably about 2 hours to get to 80% charge, if it's completely drained.
Nobody wants to spend 2 hours at the gas station or the electric station. That's crazy. Yeah.
So, it's definitely a good idea if you've got an EV, to always plug it in when you're at home, which is what I do whenever I have it at home. But I went to use the EA station. It's actually just about a 10-minute walk away from my house.
This is your job as a reviewer. You've got to try these things. Yeah.
And I wanted to try out the new plug-in charge feature.
What's that?
Which is it's a new standard that was released recently, and Electrify America is the first charging network in North America to implement it. And Ford has it on the Mach-E and on their upcoming EVs. Volkswagen is putting it in theirs, and also in the Porsche Taycan, it's got this. And what it is, the standard that when you plug in a CCS charger into the car, the charging station communicates with the car, identifies it, authenticates your account, and immediately starts charging it as soon as it authenticates.
Nice.
So you don't have to go in and tap your credit card on the charger, or an RFID card or any other.
Will it clean your windshield and check your oil?
No. Well, fortunately, oil's not an issue.
There's no oil. Okay, good.
And you're on your own with the windshield.
Okay.
But basically you just plug it in and it starts charging, and it worked beautifully. So it's one of these really nice features that manufacturers are implementing. And Tesla has been doing this with their superchargers from the beginning, but they have a proprietary system. So because you have all these different manufacturers that all use CSS that aren't Tesla,
CCS.
they had to develop a standard.
CSS.
Yeah, CCS.
CCS. Good. I was worried because my new car is going to have CCS, and I thought, oh no.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is really the right now. This is the biggest problem in going EV, is this issue. Although remember, folks, you're going to charge at home most of the time, right? Like you're doing right now.
Yeah, most people will charge at home or perhaps at a workplace, but everybody's working to make the charging process as easy as possible. But just be forewarned, if you do live in a cold climate, it is going to take you longer to charge. That's physics. There's nothing much you can do about that. And one thing that they are working on is working on ways to heat up the battery a little bit when you first plug it in, to get the battery warmed up, and then you can start to ramp up the charging rate. So that's going to help.
We're getting better and better at this. How did you like it? Did you enjoy driving your Mach-E?
Oh yeah, it's wonderful. I took it out. I drove it on Thursday. I drove about 164 miles. When I left, it was about 20 degrees out. Got up to close to 30 by the time I got home, and it still had 81 miles left on it. So that's about 245 miles in cold temperatures. With the heater running,
that's pretty good
periodically. And it's rated for 270. So in nice weather, it shouldn't be too hard to get 300 miles.
Sam Abuelsamid, Guidehouse Insights. His podcast is Wheel Bearings at wheelbearings.media. Joins us every week. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Leo.
Somebody in the chat room wanted me to ask you about hydrogen fuel cells.
Yeah, that's hydrogen fuel cells are a fascinating technology. A fuel cell is basically a device that you put hydrogen and oxygen into it, and it's got plates coated in a catalyst material, usually like a platinum, and the hydrogen and oxygen react in the presence of the catalyst. It strips electrons off the hydrogen atoms. They combine with the oxygen to produce water, and the electrons flow out of it to produce electricity. And so essentially, it's an onboard source of electricity for a vehicle or for any other device. You can use them for stationary applications, all kinds of things. We did a hands-on tech review, or maybe it was on New Screensavers, on the Honda Clarity fuel cell vehicle.
Right.
A couple of years back, and fuel cells are a great solution. One of the great things about fuel cells is you can refill a hydrogen tank, in about 5 or 10 minutes.
Like
about the same time it takes you to fill a gas tank.
Yeah. Makes sense for a fleet if you had a hydrogen station at the.
That's the big challenge. Is there isn't a lot of hydrogen refueling infrastructure.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we're seeing a shift to right now is an emphasis away from hydrogen for light duty vehicles and passenger cars towards heavy duty vehicles, because there it actually makes a lot more sense from a physics standpoint. Right. When you've got a 40-ton truck, the amount of battery you need about 10,000 pounds of battery.
Holy cow. Jeez Louise.
A truck, trucks make their money, they make their money based on the amount of the pounds of freight that
cargo
they can carry.
Yeah.
So if you're carrying 10,000 pounds of battery, that's 10,000 pounds less payload you can carry, and hence less revenue.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time to charge a battery that size.
I bet.
So
we're very happy with our Bolt. I was very happy with my Tesla, but we have a nice NEMA 50 at home. We plug, the RV style thing, plug it in it charges overnight, and it's nice. Long journeys are going to be the bigger issue, but for me, just getting around town, going to the airport, that kind of thing, 270 miles is plenty. And
even the long journeys shouldn't really be a problem now, because you can have enough range, and there's enough Electrify America stations and other DC fast charging stations. And especially in California, you're not going to unless you're going up to Tahoe in January, you're probably not going to have that cold weather problem there.
We did go to Tahoe, but it was in the summer in the Tesla, and there were superchargers along the way. It was very easy. That was why I bought a Tesla. It was because of the supercharging network.
Yeah.
And now I'm taking a little chance. But I think Ford
and EA and others are rapidly catching up to that.
The key to that. Yeah.
And with the plug and charge, it makes it really easy.
Yeah. Well, probably won't be next weekend. Couple of weekends.
Yeah. Hopefully the week after.
I hope the week after.
You'll enjoy it, I think. I can't
wait.
Really like it.
Any tips?
One issue we did find, and my co-host on the podcast, Rebecca, also had a Mach-E last week. We both encountered this problem. There's a bug in the Android Auto implementation.
Yeah, somebody called us yesterday and told me that. Yeah.
Yeah, when you plug in the phone, it starts the phone just
reboots it. Yep.
Yeah, and
they'll fix that.
I talked to the folks at Ford, and they're working with Google to fix that and get a fix out for that in the next couple of weeks.
It's Android 11, I think, is the problem. Yeah. I gotta run. Thank you, Sam.
All right. Bye.
Have a great week. Enjoy your Mustang. I'm so jealous. He's had many more miles on his. Thanks, Sam. Thank you, Professor Laura. We're gonna do this game for the rest of the show. Famous Super Bowl performances. Name the year. You did this to me last year. I scored 1 out of 20, I think. It was terrible. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. William on the line from Santa Clarita, California. Hello, William.
Hi, Leo. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for calling.
I've got a question about video.
Okay.
I'm not a video person. I'm more of a photography person, but I want to make a video, and I was thinking about using iMovie on my Mac, and then I want to post it either or maybe all on my website, on YouTube, and on Facebook.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, I know many years ago, in order to view a video, you had to have that program on your computer. And I'm wondering, I don't think the same thing.
Times have changed, my friend. So the issue on the video is, do you want to host it or not? Because hosting it is going to mean more bandwidth, more storage. And honestly, since YouTube gives you free bandwidth, free storage, and solves this whole issue of how do you play it back, unless you have a strong reason not to use YouTube, I just say upload it to YouTube. You don't have to make it a public video on YouTube, but then YouTube allows you to embed it on your website anywhere. And everybody has the capability to play YouTube. You just press the play button. You don't even have to leave your website. You've seen this. We've all seen it. It's, very, very common. So unless you're asking me what can I do besides YouTube, my recommendation would be just upload it to YouTube and let them handle it. They handle a lot of issues, because when you upload a single video and you want to send up something, MP4 video at the highest quality, they'll automatically, we call it transcoding. They'll make versions for everything, for smartphones, for desktops, 4K, 2K, SD. They'll do it all. And I can't remember the number, but it's something like 11 or something transcodes they do of every single video uploaded. I don't know how they do it. So now, is there a reason you don't want to do that?
No, I'm just wondering. I don't know video, so
yeah. Just upload it to YouTube, and then when you click the share button underneath the YouTube video, you can take what's called the embed, and you just put that on your website. If you don't want to use YouTube, there are other companies like Vimeo, Vimeo, that will do the same thing. In both cases, you don't have to worry about the viewers' software capabilities because they're not playing it locally. They're streaming it from your website.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Much easier that way. Yeah.
Can I ask you another quick question?
Sure.
I sent some family video off to Legacy Box, and they put it on disc for me.
Nice.
But the format on it, I don't remember what it is. The format on it, I can't copy it.
Yeah.
And I even took it to a tech guy up here, and they said, no, I can't do it, and you have to send it back to them to copy it.
So here's probably what happened. They made a DVD you can play in a DVD player, right?
Right.
Yeah. So what you need to do is you need software that will rip a commercial-style DVD, because if you look at it, if you open it up on your computer, you'll see there's VOB files. That's video object. That is a file that contains both the audio and the video. There's VTS files. Those are the menu structure and all that. It's not hard to rip it, but you have to rip it. You don't want to copy it. The easiest thing to do would be download a free program from some nice French schoolboys called Handbrake, HANDBRAKE.FR. And it's a free program, and it will you put in the DVD, and it will take it, and it will store it in the format that you would use for this other video. You get to choose, but MP4 or MP5, a standard video format that you can then play back everywhere.
Okay, what was that thing again? Handbrake?
Handbrake.fr. Now, if they copy protected it, which they could have, I don't think they did. That would be crazy, cuckoo. But if they copy protected it, then Handbrake will say, well, we don't break copy protection, but, and then they'll look both ways, make sure nobody's listening from the copyright police. If you download our sister program, VLC, Video Land Client, also by some French schoolboys, if you download that, then it'll play it. And by the way, it would play it. That's the way you would play a DVD on your computer, is with VLC player. And that's at videoland.org. But they'll tell you that. They'll say, oh, you need a Videoland player, VLC, to play that back. Videoland.org and handbrake.fr are the two websites you need. You can even test this. If you download VLC's media player, Mac, Windows, Linux, runs everywhere, even on iOS and Android. If you download it and open that DVD on your computer, it should play it back just fine. That means it's a standard DVD. The guy, I don't know why he said he couldn't copy it, but the answer is handbrake.fr will.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Take care. Pamela is in Ventura, California. She's our next caller. Hello, Pamela.
Hey, Leo. Great to... Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure. Thanks for calling. Nice to talk to you.
Yeah. Use you as my educational tool here at Pam University.
That's my job. Professor Laporte. What can I do for you?
Well, I upgraded my Mac to the next operating system, and then after that, my HP all-in-one inkjet printer would not scan. I can open the program on my computer and hit scan, and then it'll scan something. But to actually scan from the printer,
I get it.
Push the button.
So you can scan, but you just can't get the printer to trigger the scan.
When I'm at the printer,
the printer.
And it's very irritating.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I'm not sure what the answer is. It sounds like, the way this worked before is that the software on the printer would go, hey, Mac, over here. I want to scan something, that would fire up. That obviously, that connection was broken. The only answer would be to make sure you have the latest software, not only on your Mac, and I would go to hp.com to get it, but also on your printer. I would check for firmware updates. Because, and I don't know if you've ever done that on your printer, but if you go into the settings and you dig deep enough, there's a firmware update. And see if there is an update. Because this is, this happens when you get these upgrades. All of a sudden, Apple changed to something on the way it works, probably for good reason, probably for security reasons. That's the biggest change in the latest version of macOS Big Sur is lots more security. So probably they added something that broke the technique HP was using to wake up the printer. HP is not going to move super fast, so the firmware update may not fix it yet, but presumably at some point they would. So I would go to HP.com, get an updated driver for your Mac. More importantly, get updated firmware for your printer. And if it still doesn't work with that, may be something that broke. That may be something that, Apple's security just broke it. And there are a few things that break, especially in a big upgrade like Big Sur. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here. I am the tech guy. It's time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smart watches, augmented reality, virtual reality, all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number, if you want to talk high tech with me. 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. We're talking earlier on the show about Apple's car ambitions. Apple also has glasses ambitions. AR or VR, mixed reality, I think is what they call it. And the rumors are the drumbeat's getting stronger and stronger. For a while, Tim Cook kept saying augmented reality is the next big thing. Augmented reality is the next big thing. Now Apple, the latest is Apple has a secret team with hundreds of employees working on both virtual reality and augmented reality glasses. So what's the difference? Well, virtual reality, that's what you see with the Oculus Rift, the Oculus Quest, the HTC Vive. Those, you can't see the world around you. You're in your own world. It's best for video games, although people do watch movies and do other things in it. Those are the things that make people a little seasick. Some people, small percentage, maybe 10 or 11% of the population, suffers what they call VR motion sickness. According to an Air Force study, that's just a fixed number. Air Force, uses simulators to train pilots, and of course, they've done a lot of research on how this, they call it simulator sickness, affects people. I'm not a big fan of VR. I feel like it's a niche kind of thing. It's like for gamers, it's cool. It's fun. It's the first time you do it. It's like, wow. And I've done some of the VR amusement park things and stuff. It's wow, that's great. Augmented reality, though, I think has more of a future. That's where you can see the world around you. You're getting a heads-up display on a pair of glasses, and you can see the world around you. What Apple is doing, according to the rumor, is kind of interesting. This comes from The Information and Bloomberg, Mark Gurman, who's usually very good on his Apple rumors. They're working on a headset that you can't see through. It's, at least there's a couple of things. So the one that we'll see sooner, maybe even next year, you can't see through it. It's like a VR, except it has cameras on it, a lot of cameras on it. So you can see the world on the dual 8K screens. They're 3 inches from your eyes. So 8K is good, but you need super high resolution. Otherwise, you can see the dots. 8K, nobody's doing 8K. That's, of course, it would be Apple. 8K screens, and there's a camera, so you see the world around you. You have great peripheral vision, everything. But you also see whatever's superimposed on top of that, whether, it's a game or just information about the world around you. That's your friend Joe. Remember him? He has 2 kids, that kind of thing. Or that store has a 4 out of 5 rating, or that store has a 2 out of 5 rating. Don't eat there. Look at the reviews on that place, that kind of thing. Additional information laid on top of the real world. Now, issues. First of all, dual 8K screens, lots of battery life. That's going to take a lot of juice. That's going to take a ton of juice. All those cameras, more than a dozen cameras for tracking hand movements, the outside world. It's going to be big. It's going to be heavy. It's going to be expensive. They say around $3,000. Not till next year. The headset has been described as having a sleek, curved visor attached to the face by a mesh material and swappable headbands. Basically, if you took your $550 Apple AirPods Max and turned them sideways, it would basically look like that. One headband allegedly features spatial audio technology for a surround-like experience. Another provides more battery life while on the go. The early ones Apple was trying, according to a rumor, were so heavy that people were getting neck fatigue. It was like weighing their head down. Apple's also working on a thimble-like device to be worn on your finger. The headset would be able to respond to your eye movements and your hand gestures. One prototype had a physical dial on the side. Apple's been testing Siri. Okay. So, just I thought I'd warn you. An interesting idea. It's the next big thing. If you're a company like Apple, you made so much money on the iPhone. So much money. So much money. There's always this issue, well, what's next? You know, shareholders and customers and employees, well, what's next? How do you, if you've got a massive hit, it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to have another massive hit. So they're trying a lot of things. I mentioned last hour, they're working on cars. They're working on augmented reality headsets. This is what you do. You don't necessarily release them. It's always important to remember, you read these rumors, doesn't mean they're going to make them or release them, but they're working on it. And you know what? If it comes out good, maybe they'll make it. You know? Interesting. As these things get closer, you hear more and more about them. Hard to keep something secret forever. What do you think? Would you wear them? Would you pay $3,000? There are some who will. 8888, ask Leo the phone number. Heather's on the line. My old friend from Kinderhook, New York. Hello, Heather. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure. What can I do for you?
I filled out your survey.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, I love doing that every year. Thank you. And
bless you.
The section that said, what would you like to see more of or new of? There was an other box without an opportunity to fill that in. So I have an other, which I've been wanting to call and ask you about for a while.
I should explain for those listening, Heather, that this is the podcast network I run, which is called TWiT, This Week in Tech. This show is on it, but also a dozen other tech-focused shows. And we do a yearly survey because when you're a podcast, it's pretty hard to figure out who's listening. In fact, we know nothing about you. So we do this survey. Thank you for filling it out. It is weird that they said other, but didn't give you anywhere to fill that in. I don't design those. I apologize. Our marketing department does that. I will suggest gently that next time, if you say other, you give somebody. You know why they don't do that? Because we get more than 10,000 and they don't want to read a lot of comments.
Yeah.
But you tell me. You tell me.
Automate that, in the same way that you can automate the select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of response.
I agree. I agree.
So here's my request. I would love to see you do more programming about adaptive technologies for the aging population.
Given that I'm one of them, I think that's probably going to happen whether you want it or not.
As am I. I think you and I are very close in age from what I've heard from you. And I'm doing okay myself, but I have a lot of clients. I provide tech services for people, general kinds of tech services.
Isn't that great? That's wonderful.
Oh, it's wonderful. I love it.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. And
nice.
I rely on you. I watch and listen to you all the time and learn a lot.
Thank you.
But many of my customers are older, and they are increasingly having issues like, issues with vision, for example.
Sure.
I have some clients with some pretty advanced glaucoma, and the hoops that they have to jump through to get, big screens and high contrast backgrounds and all of those things, particularly on Windows and Mac desktops. It would be great to have more programming kind of highlighting, the best way to to do those things, all kinds of adaptive technologies, but particularly I have a lot of clients with trouble on Windows and Mac computers.
You know, I'm going to be honest with you. I would do that, and I will do that. Certainly, I'll start to incorporate that as I learn more about those technologies. But I can tell you right now why you don't see a lot of that stuff. Advertisers want, as you well know, as I know, they want young people. I don't know why. We have more discretionary income. We're just waiting to spend some money on something. But for some reason, advertisers want young people. Programmers, they don't want to do shows for old people. But I hope, it's my hope that as we baby boomers age, that, there's a bulge in the population that's going to be over 60. And I'm hoping that you'll see more and more stuff. I suspect you will see more and more stuff for them. Goodness knows if
you're right. Because you're right. It's a bulge in the population, and that population is increasingly reliant on tech.
Yeah. AARP magazine asked me to write some pieces, and I did. And they published one. And the rest of them they sent back to me with very conflicting notes. One said, it's too hard. One said, it's too easy. And then my editor, who was very nice, said, is there any way you could fix this? And I said, no, I can't. I don't know what you want. So it was very confusing to me. And I think this is the other part of the problem. And you would think AARP, the American Association of Retired People, would know how to serve their audience. But I think that's part of the problem also, and you experience this, is the assumption that older people don't understand or know anything about technology, right?
Right.
And then there's also the absolute case that there are people in our generation who love technology, who are quite expert in it. And so it is difficult to figure out, well, what do you do? I've always, in my programming, assumed intelligence. Not necessarily computer ability or technical ability, but intelligence. I just assume you're intelligent enough to understand and figure this stuff out. So
I completely agree with that and love that in your attitude toward all of your callers. And I feel exactly the same way with my clients. I am very respectful.
You have to. They're smart people. And if they're older, they've lived a life and they have a lot of experience, and so you have to. And so I'm learning. My mom's 88. I'm learning how to talk to her about technology. She's just got the new iPhone 12. She just got the new Apple Watch because I wanted it, frankly. And I told her this. I said, this has a mode in it that if you fall
detection.
Yeah. Fantastic. She said, that's great. I can resume my walks because I've always been a little nervous. And I said, yeah, it'll call emergency services, or my sister who lives across the street, it'll call her and you don't have to worry. She loves that. I
encourage my clients to get that Apple Watch for especially I have a lot of clients who are women living alone and either have fallen or fear it.
Yes, just like my mom.
Good reason. Yep. Yeah, like your mom. And that's a wonderful device.
Yep.
Perfect example.
And I haven't gotten around to this, but there's a mode for the Amazon Echo to do the same thing. And I can have it call my sister automatically. So if mom fell but can't get up or is having trouble moving, maybe she broke her hip, she could say, call Eva, my sister, and she said, come over quick, I'm stuck. There's things
on how to set that up. I know people who I have to set that up for a client of mine I just talked to yesterday.
Yep. Yep. So we'll do more of that. I agree with you. We'll do more of that. I have a good friend, macular degeneration. His vision is slowly narrowing, kind of like a glaucoma situation. It's slowly narrowing. I was watching him use his computer the other day, and it's one letter at a time on his big 27-inch iMac. One letter at a time. But he can do it. And so learning how to do things like that, I think I agree with you, is very important, because increasingly, if you're not connected, if you're not using technology to connect with the world, you're disconnected, and that's not good. We don't want our elders to become disconnected.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And thanks for the call and doing what you're doing.
Nice to talk to you again, Heather. Thank you.
You too.
Keep up your good work. That's really important stuff. And I'll make that pledge. I'm often asked, we have a lot of blind listeners, of course. Radio appeals to blind listeners. We have a lot of people with varying disabilities and just people who are older. And I think that I don't perhaps answer those questions as well as I ought to. So I'm going to start doing more research. and maybe I can do a better job for you. I apologize if I haven't done my best work. To be honest, all I ever do is answer my own questions, really. Scratch my own itch, right? But I'll have to try to branch out a little bit. Well, I see it finally happened. Can you see that? This is the Galaxy Fold, and this is that screen protector. And right where you fold it, it's starting to come up. There you go. You can see the bubble there. Oh, man. You also see what a fingerprint magnet the screen, because the screen protector isn't glass, it's plastic. Ugh. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I see people on Reddit who've peeled off the screen protector. That makes me very nervous. Samsung offers, a screen protector replacement, but I'd have to mail it in. I'm not using a screen protector. It comes with one, Mike. Yeah, there's another bubble there. Is that a bubble? Not ready for prime time. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo. Chris Marquardt, photo guy, coming up in 10. David on the line from Venice Beach, California. Hi, David.
Well, bonjour, Leo. It is nice talking to you again.
Bonjour. Hi. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm calling because you asked me to give you feedback from 3 weeks ago when my Denon receiver was not working properly, and it was very simple. The cheap building I live in, it's an apartment building, was taking too much power.
Oh, my God. So you just didn't have enough juice for it.
Yeah, so I had to go to the bathroom because it's a different circuit. I know.
How did you find out?
Well, actually, the landlord said, you know what, the bathroom circuit is a different one, so put your heater on there and leave everything else on the regular walls. I'm like, and that worked.
I'll be diggity danged.
Yeah,
well,
it was that simple.
There you go. This is one of the problems with being on the radio answering questions is there's a lot of things that could cause problems. I had no thought that might be one of them, though. That's why. But it's worth it. You live on Venice Beach. It's fun. It's beautiful. The weather's nice. There's always a show going on. So that's what's wrong with that, right?
No problem. Yeah, so it's small details. And the other thing I was thinking about your handle. So I thought about 4 different ones since we both speak French. Leo Laporte. So that's lion the door. So maybe the door lion or the...
Oh, lion the door. I do like that. Yeah. It's actually Leo, but which is apparently a very old name. It's a French Canadian, I think, more than Quebecois, more than France proper. But and I imagine at one point it was de la Porte, right? Because in fact they always told me as a kid, oh yeah, it was de la Porte, which is of course nobility, but we got rid of the de. Apparently Louis XIV's door opener, I guess, So that's something. I got that going for me. All right, lie in the door. Or, something like that. Something along those lines. I like it. Are you French, David?
Belgian.
Belgian. See, that's big difference. Big difference.
Yes, nice. Thank you. It's not the same.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I love Belgium. We were in Belgium a couple of years ago. It's beautiful. Not just good chocolate, many other things. Including Le Mannequin Peace. But we won't we won't talk about that. Thank you, David. Great to talk to you. Au revoir.
Have a good one.
All right, you too. Bye-bye. Photo guy Chris Marquardt coming up next. Our show today brought to you by, this is really an interesting product. Let's take a little explanation. It's Nureva, N-U-R-E-V-A. And it solves a problem I know I don't have to explain to you. In fact, we had a call yesterday from a teacher who has this exact problem. You've got a conference room, or in her case, a classroom with several people in it. Of course, we're all socially distanced now, so we're 6 feet apart. People may be faced in different directions. And the audio, when you're on that Zoom call, is terrible. You've all been on it, right? There's a lot of echoey, room tone, noise. People are chewing gum, and it's louder than the voice that's that far away, or it's crunkling paper. You can hear typing on the keyboard. It's crazy. This is why you need Nureva. Nareva is a microphone designed for distancing. The most important factor is conventional audio is not going to do it. They don't give you the flexibility. You can get those, you've probably seen them, very expensive beamforming systems, but then the technician has to tweak and modify. You have to put dots on the chair or on the table so everybody sits in the right spot. You don't want that. Most of these systems are just not as flexible as you need. Nareva is very clever. It's basically like a sound bar. You put it up on the wall. You don't have to sanitize it between meetings. You don't have to change behaviors. You don't have to sit in a special place or face a special way. But you get super clear audio. I think the best way to describe it is it's computational audio. Nareva calls it the first socially distanced mic system. They have patents, 4 patents for what they call their microphone mist technology. In effect, the Nareva microphone, it's on the wall. You can see it here in the lower third, or go to their website, nareva.com, /twit, of course, so they know you saw it here. And the microphone, in effect, puts virtual microphones, thousands of them throughout the room. Computational audio. It's doing a lot of processing. It knows where people are. It can tell when people move. You get full room coverage. Everyone, anywhere in the room sounds like they're on mic, no matter where they sit, no matter where they face, no matter how they're distanced from each other. No technician needed. You could install it easily. It's just like installing a speaker bar on the wall. The audio will adapt to any room configuration. You can move furniture around. You can move people around. It still works. 4 patents they've got on this. And they've won so many awards. They just got the Top New Technology Award at the ISE 2020. That was for their HDL 200 system. HubSpot uses their HDL 300 system. Jimmy Yan, who's the HubSpot's principal collaboration engineer, very happy customer. He said, "We are so impressed with the sound quality," and that's the thing, it's sound quality, with the ease of install, the ease of use. They have the HDL 300. It was a no-brainer for us to adopt it. That's, in a nutshell, the things you want. High quality, ease of install, no configuration, and ease of use. People can move around. You don't have to have special rules for your conference. This is a great solution. Anywhere people are gathered together. And you know, when COVID's over, you're still going to love this because your conferences will sound better. Your Zoom calls will sound better. The worst thing in the world, and I've been in many of these conferences, where there's some people in the room and some people on the conference call and they can't hear. They're bored. You can't hear them. They can't hear you. Not with Nareva. It solves it. It's the simple, cost-effective way to let your teams distance in meetings and still act and converse naturally and still be heard clearly. Computational audio is the trick. Visit nareva.com/twit to learn more. Get a demo and all of that. NUREVA, nareva.com/twit. It is a really spectacular technology. Find out more. nareva.com/twit. It's time for Chris Marquardt, our photo guy. He joins us every week to help us get better pictures, whether it's with a smartphone or a fancy camera. I try to keep him from talking about camera gear because then it just makes me spend money. He joins us each week. He's not a big guy on got to have the fanciest stuff. He does photo coaching and workshops at sensei.photo, SENSEI.photo, and he joins us every week. Hi, Chris.
Hey, how are you today?
Snowed in at the Viewfinder Villa.
Well, a little bit. Are you
Germany
running? Has a bit of a snow thing going on right now. Not as bad as in New York, but
that was snowpocalypse in New York. 17 inches. Yikes. So today we're not going to take snow pictures. We're going to stay inside and take macro photos. We're going to talk about macros.
That's it.
What is macro?
That's it. Indoors. Well, how would you define macro? What's your idea of macro?
I think the technical definition is the object in the picture is actual size, 1:1.
That's perfect. Perfectly right. That's the actual size, meaning if it's 1 inch in front of the sensor, it's 1 inch on the sensor or on the film. Yeah, that's macro.
Yeah. Typically, people do flowers, bugs, things like that.
That kind of stuff, yeah. Small stuff. But that definition doesn't really hold today. Most people just if it's bigger than like life size, if it feels big, then it's typically referred to as macro.
Right. Close-up photography, that's sufficient. Yeah.
It's somewhere in the range between close-up and, let's say, microscopy, right? So it's one somewhere in that realm. And the first question is, how can you tell it's a macro photo? I would say most macro photos will reveal themselves either by what is in there or by seeing very shallow depth of field, right? You have lots of unsharp stuff in the photo. The backdrop is not very sharp. The foreground is not very sharp. And then, of course, the subject, an insect or plants or flowers or tiny mechanical things are quite popular. And it's a pretty interesting world to discover.
Do you need a special camera or special lens to do this?
Yes and no. So the basic answer is no, you do not. And I'll give you a few tips towards the end of this segment. Even a free tip how you can take macro photos with your smartphone.
Good.
There are a couple of issues there. Well, the first and biggest issue is often light. Because if you shoot macro, that often means that you will go really close to something, really close, and then you're covering the light. You're casting shadow with your lens because it's so close.
That's not good. You don't want a big head shadow. Yeah.
So macro photographers will try all sorts of things to get more light there, including like special flashes that are like ring flashes around the front of the lens, so you get that light in there. Or if you want to shoot macro of things in summer out on a field of flowers, the one thing I've seen is you take a white plastic cup, like a translucent plastic cup, cut out the floor of that cup and put it over the lens, and then put that entire thing over what you want to shoot. So you're building a little light tent around.
Oh, that's hysterical.
It works wonders. It works really well.
It needs to be translucent so the light comes through the sides.
Yep.
Oh, that's clever as heck.
So from the lenses, there are dedicated macro lenses they say macro, and even though some lenses say macro, and they're not really macro by that definition we talked about earlier. But in general, macro lens says it's a macro lens, and that means you can get things, make things really big with it.
For a lot of the so-called macro lenses I have, it just means you get you can get focus more closely. Yeah. You can be more close.
You might see a little symbol of a flower on it or something.
Because most cameras can focus up to a point, but once you get within, say, 6 inches to a foot of the thing, if you're any closer, they cannot focus anymore. And you've probably experienced that.
And that brings us to an interesting trick.
Oh.
And it's... Well, you do not really need a dedicated macro lens. If your lens can only go to, 10 inches in terms of focusing.
Yeah, pretty typical,
The way you can make it focus closer is by using what's called an extension ring, which just extends the distance between the camera and the lens, and that turns it into a closer focusing lens.
Oh, interesting.
In studio, you might have bellows that do that in a more flexible sense. Mm-hmm. Or you can use a lens in front of the lens, a so-called achromatic lens, which is pretty much a magnifying glass that you can screw in on the front of the lens if you have a thread there for a filter. And they come in different strengths, and they are a pretty good stand-in for an actual macro lens.
A lot of point-and-shoot cameras have a macro setting. Is it typical in phones to do that?
No, not really. Depending on the lens on the phone, you can get relatively close, but to a point. But I'll tell you in a minute how you can get even closer.
Okay,
there's a really interesting trick. Okay. One more thing about the lenses on your fancy camera, especially on cameras where you can change lenses, is what's called a retro adapter. So. The interesting thing is the optical properties of lenses change when you turn them around, when you face the part that is supposed to face away from you towards the camera.
Like when you take binoculars and you look in the wrong end. And everything's really small.
And but not with your lenses. If you take your 50 millimeter lens or your kit lens, and you use a specific retro adapter that allows you to turn that around and attach it to the camera the wrong way, then a lot of these lenses turn into really close focusing macro lenses.
That's a good trick.
And if you combine that with bellows, you can get really close to things and get really detailed things. Now, here's the trick I talked about. Google water drop macro lens.
Water drop macro lens.
So what you do is on your smartphone, and make sure you have a smartphone that doesn't mind water, right? It has to have a bit of water resistance. Is you take a little drop of water, you can really clean the lens, and then you take a drop of water with your finger or with a little eyedropper and put that on the lens.
What?
And the surface tension will make that into a lens shape, and now you can use that as a macro lens.
I am not responsible if you try this at home and it screws up
I said it has to be a phone that is waterproof, and then you won't have any issues there.
Okay. Wow, what a clever idea.
There's a good article on Instructables.com.
Okay.
Where that's explained.
Water
and it works
drop lens.
fairly well.
Okay.
Water drop macro lens.
Okay.
And it's a free macro lens ad hoc whenever you need that little bug in your... if you need a photo of that little bug with your smartphone, then that's one of the ways to do it.
You sent us a gallery, which we'll put up at the techguylabs.com. And I thought maybe when you said water drop, you were talking about this photo, which is a yellow colored pencil with a drop of water coming off of it. And the water is a lens, so it's getting the other pencils in the background.
That's one of the amazing tricks with macro photography. Because you have such shallow depth of field, you can use water drops to shoot through and make them into lenses. That's another one of those tricks.
So the pencils in the pencil box are out of focus because it's a macro shot, but the little drop of water is putting them back in focus. It's hysterical. That's a great shot. That's pretty impressive that they were able to figure that out. So that would be fun. We should go around and take some macro shots. It reminds me a little bit of drone photography. The idea that you're seeing your everyday world in a unique way.
Yes.
You don't normally see it that close up or from above. And so there's something about it. It's very pleasurable. It's like, oh, that's neat. Oh, that's cool. Look at those chips. They look good enough to eat. They look like toffees.
An entirely new world is waiting for you there. Yeah.
Chris Marquardt, our photo guy, sensei.photo is his website. We are still doing the assignment. We're only in week 2 of the assignment, which is W.
The weird assignment.
Weird. We don't have enough weird pictures. Take a weird picture, upload it to our Tech Guy group on Flickr, tag it TG Weird. We have a few more weeks before our review. Thank you, Chris Marquardt.
Thank you very much.
Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Some really nice images in here. I like macro. There's something about macro I really enjoy.
It's one of those things when you're not in the mood to go out and shoot.
I bought foolishly a very fancy
Sony A1. Sony A1.
No, I wish. No, I'm not gonna. No, I looked at it and I thought, there's no reason to buy that.
That's a pretty hefty dollar on that one.
There is it's $6,000 camera, and it's. I mean, I think I'm very happy with my A7R Mark IV. And Lisa has an A9, the first A9, and it's excellent. Those are great. And those do everything I want.
Amazing cameras. Yeah. Amazing cameras.
I don't need anything fancy. And the truth is, I really like my little Leica Q because it's a fixed lens. It's 24 millimeter. It has a little macro ring, so you can get some very nice flower shots or bumblebee shots or whatever. I'm very happy with that. So I'm well equipped. I've decided not to spend any more money. In fact, I gave my son, I lent it to him, but I don't need to see it back. My Canon, so he's got the 5D Mark IV, and all my lenses, including that 135 millimeter macro lens that I never used,
which is a great.
I mean,
the longer focal length macro lenses are amazing because
it gets you out of
won't have the You won't have the issues with light. You won't have the issues with insects fleeing from you.
Yeah, you have to put it on sticks.
You can with today's cameras. You can shoot at high ISOs and stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I wonder.
Or get an R5 and you have a in-body stabilization that does everything for you. That's just that. These kind of things are changing photography. So much.
I noted. I was watching Steven Soderbergh's most recent movie, which is he shot himself using a red Komodo. And I noted the red Komodo uses the R5 lenses. And I thought, gee, if I got a Komodo and an R5, and then I could get all those lenses, I'd be able to shoot cinematic movies, and I mean, then I woke up.
Shooting movies is not just a matter of the right camera.
No, it was really interesting. It was a great cast. They were all on the Queen Mary 2 for most of the movie. And apparently it was an actual 2-week trip on the Queen Mary 2. And for dolly shots, he'd sit in a wheelchair. The Komodo is pretty small. It's almost a 35 millimeter camera. And he shot the whole thing himself. They didn't have a crew, didn't have anything. They had sound. That's all they had. So
yeah, filmmaking is changing.
It's really amazing for somebody like Soderbergh to say, yeah, we're just going to get Meryl Streep and Diane Wiest and Candice Bergen on a boat. I'll shoot it whenever, we feel like it. We got 2 weeks and make a movie. It's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing.
If you have the concept, if you have everything.
Yeah, it wasn't a great
movie,
but and they ad-libbed. Apparently, they ad-libbed a lot of it. So yeah,
right.
All right, my friend.
All right. See you.
Have a wonderful week.
Valentine's Day.
Yay!
Valentine's Day.
We'll do hearts and flowers.
I'll try to find something.
Have a good one. Take care.
You too. See you in a week.
8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. We're having some fun. Professor Laura is playing us Super Bowl memories for halftime. This time on halftime, it's, is it The Weeknd? Who is it this time? The Weeknd? Yeah. I don't know who that is. I just remember I thought, that's a strange name. That's his handle. That's his chat room handle. He was called The Weeknd on AOL Instant Messenger many years ago. People don't know that. Pete, and Leo's making it up. 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number. 888-827-5536. Everything we talk about, including, by the way, those macro photos. Chris picked a bunch of them from Flickr. They're beautiful. We'll put those macro photos up on our website, which is free for all. TechGuyLabs.com. TechGuyLabs.com. Peter, Las Vegas. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Leo. It's an honor to talk to you. It's the first time around.
Well, welcome. I'm honored to talk to you.
I've been listening to you. I'm a tech guy from the old TV show that you had. Anyway, this is what I need a little help on, and maybe I'm doing something wrong. But for the last 15 years, I have downloaded shows from mostly you, in addition to maybe 4 or 5 other podcasters, and some of them, the title of the show has the date with the name on it.
Right.
I'm not going to give you the guys' names. You, for example, always put the tech guy. You put the initials.
Yeah, then we changed it.
Like, what has happened in the last 4 to 6 months? Because I'll let you answer it, but I used to download different shows. I would throw them all in a folder, and then I would look at them and alphabetically.
They'd be in order. They'd be in chronological order because of the alphabet. Yeah.
Well, right now I'm downloading a show, which is your show, 1766. For the file name, it says TWI 5988. It looks like a password, the file name.
I'm sorry. And I can explain it, and I apologize, and it's driving me nuts too. It's kind of out of my control. So what happened is something called ad tech. Thank you, ad tech, which has ruined the internet. It's one of the reasons, you go to a website now and they have 15 ads blaring at you. It's one of the reasons for the largest, I think, in history, consumer boycott, ad blocking. People are running ad blockers all the time because ad tech. So ad tech has come to podcasts, and it's not just our podcast, it's many podcasts. I think I'm going to turn it off. I would like to turn it off. It's not up to me. I have an entire sales team, and it's really up to them. But what we started doing with the Tech Guy Show is feeding it through a service called Megaphone. And what Megaphone does is if all the ad positions aren't sold, and on the Tech Guy, I think there's 3 ad positions. If they're not all sold, then we put a little tone inaudible to you in there, and Megaphone, it hosts the show and then can stick an ad into it at one hopes an appropriate spot. But the ad is targeted a little bit more. It knows what IP address you have. So, for instance, people can right now when you buy an ad on any of my podcasts, you're buying a global audience. You can't say, "Well, I want people only in the U.S." We don't do that. I only want people in California. We definitely don't do that. But Megaphone can do that based on your IP address. Unfortunately, what this means is Megaphone is generating a copy of the podcast each time you download it just for you. And so they use weird names. And that's what you're seeing is the weird name. And I really apologize for you. Yeah. There is a solution because it's in the metadata. So, in fact, when you load the podcast, you'll see the name of the show, you'll see the episode number, all that in the metadata on the MP3 file or on the video file. And what you can get, and I might write an article on this because there are a variety of different tools, but there are tools that will let you take the metadata and rename the files. So we'll go back to, in fact, you can make it even better. You can do whatever you want. You can, do all sorts of things with it, taking the metadata from the programs. Now, It sounds like you're seeing this from other people, and it's probably the case because it's not just me doing this. Everybody in the podcast world is starting to look at other ways to sell ads. And I think part of this is also because of COVID. Advertisers have kind of pulled back a little bit. So we're looking at other ways. I have to tell you, my experience with Megaphone, this service we're using, is it doesn't really work to make us much money. So I think we're just going to turn it off.
Well, I'll tell you just from my little thing. I download about 10 different shows, about 3 or 4 from your company and 6 or 7 others from various sources. And one of them, most of them are, the file name is, there's one company that I downloaded a show having to do with money and investing and all that, and it looks like a 25-character password.
Yeah, they're probably using something like Megaphone, and so it's generating unique names. So there are a number of. Are you on Windows or Mac, or how do you do this?
Well, I'm on Windows, and what I end up doing is, as I download it, when you
rename it.
I renaming it with the date and the.
I apologize.
No.
I hate doing this.
I just thought I was nuts because I screwed up something. I download everything into that one folder, and every week or so I go back and I listen to them. And
this is why we can't have nice things, Peter. This is why, in a nutshell, I'm not a fan of it. We have the podcast network, including the Tech Guy podcast, is all through my company called TWiT. But in order to run a company with, it costs us several $1 million a year. We have to have advertising. And but when advertising started to drop off due to COVID, we kind of were casting around for other things we could do. And that's why you're seeing that. And I apologize. But there are MP3 renamers if you're using audio. That will go through it automatically. You could take a whole bunch of files and say, look in the MP3 tags, change the file name to the show name, the episode number, and the date, or whatever you want. And so there is a mass way to do that. I apologize. I suspect, A, I'm going to get in trouble with my wife, who's our CEO, and is going to yell at me for this. And B,
the funny thing is that you were talking about those commercials that are targeted to a particular IP address.
Yeah.
And, I started to listening, and all of a sudden I was getting... This is no offense to anyone that speaks this language, but I don't speak Spanish. And
you're getting Spanish language commercials in there?
Yeah.
In my shows?
Yeah, about a month or 2 months ago. And I don't know, maybe my IP jumped from...
Yeah, it could be. They think you're in Tijuana or something. I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
No problem.
You know what? More and more, I'm inclined to say... we should do an ad-free subscription version or something like that. Would you? The problem is, when you've been giving away stuff, it seems hard to ask people to pay for it. But would you pay for an ad-free version that didn't have weird file names?
Well, I'll tell you the truth. I have a few of the paid services on Roku, like Amazon, and whatever. And when the choice is to get it with no commercials for, let's say, $6. Or pay 10 or 12.
Yeah.
I prefer to do the 10 or 12, but I'm sure if I was downloading 10 different providers.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is there's fatigue after a while. You get subscription fatigue. Well, another one wants $5. Another one wants $5. So I understand that too. I don't know what the answer is, but I have to say this is a problem not just with podcasts, but websites, with everything. Ad tech is this whole notion of tracking you to give you ads for things you're more interested in, and it doesn't work. And it's what Facebook does, is what Google does. Really, in some degree, that's what we're doing, is responding to the pressure from advertisers who can get Facebook and Google and get everything that they ever would want to know about you. And we need to find a way around that. I apologize. I really do. I wish I could do something else. Maybe we will. I'm glad you called, Peter. I've seen some of this in our forums as well, and I apologize. It's not something I want to do.
I don't know if I'm still live, but
you're not on the radio. You're on the podcast. So,
okay. Well, to be honest with you, let's say right now I'm viewing one of the files. Yours actually says TWI, where many of the others don't have any difference. If I had 25 podcasts,
it's just a number. Oh, that sucks.
TWI. I know TWI. I know it's TWiT. I know it's yours.
Yeah, that's why it's TWI. It's TWiT. Yeah. So they're not using Megaphone. They're using some other solution. There are lots of these ad insertion. It's called DIA, direct insertion advertising. Yeah. And there are a lot of people doing it, some of them on their own. Podcasts are going through a bit of a crisis right now because it's become so successful. You see big companies like Spotify, Amazon, and Apple, I think, eventually doing their own podcasts, and they're exclusive, right? If Joe Rogan got, it's rumored, $100 million to move all of his shows to Spotify, but you can't listen unless you're using the Spotify app. And the reason Spotify was willing to give him that much money is because Spotify, if you use the app, they don't need to track you. They know everything about you. They know your name, your address, your credit card number. They got it all. So, and they know exactly how long you listen, when you listen, where you listen, what you skipped. So advertisers go, oh, well, I want that information. Not that they can do anything with it, but I want that information. It's a crisis for all internet content, unfortunately.
Yeah. The funny thing is that, sometimes I get to download more shows. I throw them all in the folder, and then there's 30, 40 of them, and I don't know from one.
That's when you want the renamer, because all of them. Are you listening to audio only, or?
Yeah, I download it on the desktop, and then I put it on an MP3 player, which I listen to at the course of the day.
So if you Google rename MP3s from tags, you'll find a lot of programs that will just do a batch thing. You drag them all there, and you'll say, when you set up the program, you say, I want the new file name to be the name of the show and the date, and you can make the date be year, month, day if you want, so it'll sort and everything. So there's programs that will do that, and if you have 1,000 files in there, it'll go right through them all, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. I'm sorry that you have to do that. Honestly, I don't think we're gonna keep using it. Because I don't.
The funny thing is that I download my shows from this Podbean, like a
Podbean. Yeah, Podbean. Yeah. And
that when I look at the line, like the last one that they have is episode 1768. It shows the date 2021-0207. So I know what
you know that way. Yeah, your podcast player will do that. Yeah. And I think Podbean, because they do the hosting, I think they may be doing renaming as well. They may, if you use Podbean for a lot of the stuff, they may actually be the ones that are doing some of the renaming.
Yeah, they do it, and it's fabulous because sometimes I have to go back 2 episodes. Sometimes I got to go back 7 or 8, and I have to have a point of reference. What was the last one that I listened to? Because I've got 40 of them in my folder. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
I know. I would hate that too. That's why when I started this, I made sure that the names were very clear so that you could figure out. And in fact, I also, way back when, 15 years ago when I started this, began every show with a quick little me saying, here's what's coming up in this show, so that even if you weren't sure if you'd heard it before, you'd go, oh, yeah, I heard that, and you could skip it. I wanted to make it easy for people to, find the shows they wanted.
No, it's been great. It's just that, like I said, I thought I tweaked something inside the computer, and all of a sudden...
No, it's not you. It's me.
It wasn't I thank you.
I'm glad you brought it up because I think you're not alone. I'm sorry, Peter.
No. I thank you very much, and I apologize for everything that you've done in the last 15, 20 years.
You apologize for? Well, gosh, I hope that works.
I don't want this to sound like a complaint. I thought I was doing something wrong.
No, you're not complaining. No. I always love hearing from our listeners. I'm so glad you've been listening all this time, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Have a good one. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches. Actually, I'm your tech guy. Let's put it that way. 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number. 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Anywhere outside that area, you can still call. Just use Skype and it should still cost you nothing. On we go with Roy in New Mexico. Hello, Roy.
Hi, Leo. How are you?
I am great. How are you doing?
Doing well. I have a quick question that may make an excellent topic for you or all of your good hosts on the TWiT network.
Okay.
Steve Gibson, maybe your amateur radio people as well. I'm curious as to why cellular phones don't suffer the same collision problems and congestion for data as Wi-Fi does.
Oh, isn't that a great question?
Isn't it, though?
That's a brilliant question. So the Wi-Fi network, it gets very deep. If you're an amateur radio operator, you will have some insight into this. Are you? So
yes,
I don't know how I knew that.
Technicians, though.
I don't know how I knew that. I just sensed there was a ham out there. So the way Wi-Fi works is not the same way radio networks work. The Wi-Fi network is very similar to Ethernet. It's what we call a collision-based network. In the early days of Ethernet, you had the same problem. You have a bunch of computers on a shared network, and the issue is if both computers are trying to speak at the same time, neither one is heard. It's a mess. So Bob Metcalfe, when he created the Ethernet protocol way back when, said, well, what if when you hear a collision, you start talking, just like humans do, and somebody else is talking, you go, oh, sorry, and you back off, you wait a random amount of time, and then try again. And if there's still noise, you back off. It's just, I bet you hams do that. You know, if you're talking on the radio and you say hello, and somebody else is talking, you back off and you wait. Now, the nice thing about being a ham is you can wait until the other guy stops talking. Computer networks aren't that smart. So you might be retrying several times. Wi-Fi works the same way. It's a collision-based network. If you hear traffic on that channel, that's why we have multiple channels for Wi-Fi, but if you're on the same channel and you hear traffic, you back off and you wait. And it's what makes Wi-Fi less than ideal for streaming media. Cell networks use other technologies like CDMA and GSM to prevent these kinds of collisions. Now, I'm not an expert on the technologies that are used. Mostly everybody now is using LTE and then GSM. But in both cases, they have other ways of avoiding collisions. And I'm not going to say what because it's above my pay grade. But if you're a ham and you have some interest in this, it's the reason I think I kind of figured out you were a ham, Roy, is because that's who thinks about things like that, right? You're kind of aware of that, and you get collisions in the ham world where everybody's speaking at the same time, and it's terrible.
That's right.
So generally, you do have multiple channels on cell networks. When you are on a cell tower, it's my understanding, you own that channel as long as you're on that tower. So there isn't anybody else on that channel. Now, what happens after you get to the connection to the internet, I don't know. But essentially, that's the idea, is that there isn't there are, I believe, and somebody's going to call and correct me, I believe that there are not shared channels on a cell network. But there are, of course, on Wi-Fi.
Yeah, it just amazes me. You can put 10, 15, 50 devices on Wi-Fi, and boy, if you thought that went up to 1,000 devices, what a collision mess that would be. But just think of how many people in a major city are using just one tower at any moment, and it just fascinates me that. And I've tried looking it up, and I don't know if I pick a bad set of search terms. I've only been doing IT since before Windows 3.1, so I'm pretty good at thinking of. What would be the thing I would type in to get my result, and I'm all self-taught. But I haven't been able to find anybody even discussing this matter.
I will put a.
I listened to TWiT Network so much. I thought, you guys have so many just brilliant people out there that I think it would make an excellent show topic.
I'm going to ask Steve Gibson, because you're right. He's the geek.
There you go.
He's the geek.
Oh,
he'd be the one to talk to you. I'm not an expert, and I'm hoping somebody will call, and if not, I'm hoping Steve will. But I did find a slide presentation from UC Berkeley's electrical engineering school on how you handle multiple access in cellular and 802.11 networks. And so this, I'm going to put this, it's a PDF, but I'll put it in the show notes, that I think will help understand this. I don't know if I can summarize it. And I don't even know if I'm correct in saying that it isn't shared, but on Wi-Fi, you've got 11 channels, and one of the ways you set up a Wi-Fi network is to set up, if you have a lot of collisions, separate channels for separate devices. On GSM, it's another issue, and so I don't know if there's still an issue of collisions or not. But this is a good talk. I will put this up, and maybe it'll give you some insight into what's going on. And then the best thing to do is to ask Steve Gibson. Okay?
Yeah, I've tried, using the web interface he has for posting questions. I've had that as a great show topic, and never got a response.
I'm so glad you called me, Roy, and I will make a note. Ask Steve about collision detection and networks, because that is a really interesting topic. I think a lot of people don't even realize that that's what's going on Wi-Fi.
Well, that's the hard thing to explain to a customer, because they understand, I have this cellular phone that's wireless, and there's just hundreds and maybe thousands and just people using data at the same time. Why can't I do that at work on my Wi-Fi? And I tell them, well, you can't. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And, you can explain to anybody, have you ever used a CB radio or seen someone using a CB radio? You have to wait your turn, children.
Yeah. CB, that's very much the case, isn't it? Yeah. I'm not sure. Of course, everybody uses LTE now, and I'm going to see if I can find something a little more recent about LTE collision detection and see what I can find out. But what a great question. Thank you. That's a very nerdy question. What's your call sign, Roy?
KB5 WFN.
W6TWT 73. Take care.
Bye.
Tonight is going to be a good night. We're preparing for the superb owl, which will be occurring sometime today. With any luck, when I'm not here, right? Ron on the line, West Hollywood, California. Hello, Ron.
Hello, Leo. Another Buckeye here.
Another Buckeye. We love the Buckeyes.
They're everywhere.
Yes. Yeah. Where in Ohio are you from originally?
From Columbus. Oh, Ashland, Ohio. Originally.
Ashland. Okay.
Ashland. It's between Columbus and Cleveland. Yeah.
Very nice.
I grew up in Columbus. Went to school there.
Beautiful state.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Interesting. There you go. It is. It's a lot of different things, isn't it? It's a lot of different things.
A lot of different things. And if you watch the news, they're always commenting on Ohio State, things that they've discovered in Ohio. I think because it's a state in the middle of the country, they've focused on Ohio.
Yeah,
I hear it all the time. And I'm like, why Ohio? Why not Michigan?
I have family from Cincinnati, which is practically Kentucky. So that's a different different Ohio entirely.
Hey, listen, question for you. What do you if you go to Barbados, what are you called?
A Barbadian? I don't know. What?
You're close. No, you're close. You're close. A Bajan.
Well, that's the Bajans are the locals, right?
The Bajans, yes.
Yes.
Locals, right. If you're living there.
And the money is the Bajan dollar, isn't it?
I don't know about the money.
I believe it is. I was informed by one of our chatters, Mick, who spent some time in the service in Barbados.
Right.
Who said, when you play the slots, use Bajan quarters.
Okay.
And you'll get paid in American quarters, which are worth 50% more.
Hey, perfect.
Clever.
Great. I
Clever.
love it. Well, they say, I'm just looking here, Barbados is the gentleman of the Caribbean islands, the Caribbean tourism, and is the second home to a crowd of English sophisticates.
Oh, I should go there. I'll wear my tweed suit. Yes.
Exactly.
Sounds jolly good.
Every day.
Yes. Every day in the 80-degree weather, I'll be drinking gin and tonics and sweating in my tweed suit.
You are a smart guy for doing that. Absolutely.
I think it's rum punches anyway. No, this all came up actually because Barbados created a special visa, a year-long visa for people who want to remote work from there.
Uh-huh.
And I have an acquaintance who is a tech CEO, or I think he's a marketing guy in a tech company, who, I'm talking to him, and he's in Barbados with his girlfriend. I said, well, how long you been there? He says, months. We're never leaving.
It sounds like a good place to go. I've toured the world, here, there, and everywhere, but I've never been to the Caribbean. I mean, other than Cancun, and if you want to call that, the Caribbean.
No, I've been to some islands. I've never been to Barbados. I would love to go. I think it's a fantasy.
Well, it's on my list.
It's on my list.
Now that you've mentioned it and I've read about it, I've got my Cadogan guide right here.
I love it. The Gentleman Island of the Caribbean.
It is the Gentleman Island of the Caribbean, and it's full of sophisticated English folks, and it has wonderful hotels.
I want to go now. Don't. You're leading me on now. Yeah, you're just teasing me.
Get this book. Go get the Cadogan Guide.
Cadogan Guide.
It's supposed to be the hot spot in the Caribbean in terms of hoity-toities, okay?
Oh, see, now everybody's going to be there. I'm not going to be able to go. It's going to be too crowded.
I blew it for you, didn't I?
Got to find a new secret place. What can I do for you, Ron?
Okay, you know what? I've been with you since my first big computer was a Wang. Remember Wang?
I remember Wang.
Oh, Wang. They never could get the damn thing to work. But anyway, I had a Wang, and
it was a dedicated word processor, right?
And I was using it for my business back then in the 70s, and
people loved the Wang word processor so much that when microcomputers came out, one of the very first word processing programs for micros, WordPerfect, used the Wang key abbreviation so that everybody would feel comfortable with it.
I had WordPerfect.
Yep,
of course,
and you were able to use it, right? Because it was Wangy.
It was Wangy. It was, but the people that were supporting Wang, they didn't know what they were doing, and they were there all the time trying to get it to work. That's when we had the discs that were about, I don't know, were they 15 inches?
Oh, they were 8.5, but they were big, yeah.
No, they were bigger than 8.5.
Were they? They were bigger than that?
Bigger than 8.5. They were really big, yeah. Wow. I think 12 inches in diameter, I would guess.
Holy cow.
Yeah, holy cow.
Probably proprietary.
Proprietary, I suppose. I don't know. But, I finally gave it back. I said, you're not going to ever get it to work. I needed it for a whole lot of stuff that I was doing.
That's a common story these days, even still with computers, is it not? You're never going to get it working, are you?
No. Hey, one quick one before I go to my main question.
Yes.
LTE and GSM, are they interchangeable?
No.
They're not.
No, although many phones will have capability to do both because we were in a transitional period. Mm-hmm. GSM was widely used by AT&T and T-Mobile, and of course around the world it's the #1 technology for cell phones.
Right.
Sprint used CDMA, as did Verizon. Mm-hmm. All 4 of the major telcos, I guess there's only 3 now in the U.S., have moved to LTE, which stands for long-term evolution. What? What does that mean?
I don't know, man. I would say it stands for light, but it's not it.
No, long-term evolution, but it is the future. In fact, most of your cell calls now are going as data over LTE. Everything's data now.
Everything.
Yep.
Yep. How things have changed. Anyway, I've got computers and more computers, but I dusted off an old MSI Win notebook, which was upstairs probably for a couple of years.
Yeah, those were good little laptops. I remember those.
Good little notebook.
Yep.
And so I plugged it in and let it charge for the evening, and voila!
Wow,
it's working. And I've got my wireless and it's connected. But but none of the browsers will work. I've got all the browsers.
Yeah, you know what you want to do with that old computer probably is put Linux on it.
Well, I've got to do something because it's got the old. What do I want?
I guess you could put Windows 10 on it. How much RAM does it have?
Well, that's a good question.
That's going to be your gating factor. Processors haven't made much progress in the last decade, so you might be fast enough, but you will have to have at least 4 gigs. Probably you want 8 gigs of RAM in that thing, and then you can put Windows 10 on it. And then every browser will work. What happened is Microsoft deprecated all the versions of Windows up to Windows 10 and said, we're not going to support it anymore. And for a while, Chrome and Firefox did. But after a while, they gave up too. And so if you have, I don't know what version, it's probably Windows XP, I'm going to guess.
You're right on. Yep.
Yeah. And the other reason not to use XP is it is not getting security patches. So it's
I know.
somewhat risky. So you could get Windows 10 on there, and if you have enough RAM, it'd be easy enough to figure that out in the device manager or the system information. If you have enough RAM, you should be able to put Windows 7 on there. It's actually a little lighter weight. Or Windows 10. That's the modern one. 10. Yeah. Otherwise, it's a great candidate for Linux. I got to take a break because Rod Pyle's coming up, space guy, right after this.
Rod.
Yeah. So how do you feel about Linux? Does that give you chills, or does that sound intriguing?
I'm open to anything. I've been doing this for a long time, man. 40 years.
So I think you'd be very comfortable with Linux, which is basically a Unix operating system. It's free to try, and that would be a great candidate for Linux. What I would do is go to, there's my favorite one is from Manjaro, manjaro.org.
Got it.
But a lot of people prefer Ubuntu. I'm not as crazy about it, but either one would be fine. ubuntu.com.
Right.
You download it, you put it on a USB key. If you can get that MSI to boot to the USB key, is there anything on it that you want to keep?
Nah. I mean, I used to take it to Europe, and I did a lot of correspondence with the Swiss bank over there, as a matter of fact.
Oh, interesting.
It served me well, through
interesting.
Through many communications. Believe me,
they're nice. They're very tough laptops. They'd probably be an excellent Linux laptop. You'd have a modern operating system on it. You could use modern browsers. You'd be more secure. I think it'd probably be a good choice. MANJ.
I was surprised that it fired up. I mean, sitting in a carrying case. I mean, for a couple of years.
It's been protected.
I wonder if I saw the charger up there, and I said, I should hook it up.
Nice. I can still, I have my original iPod back here, 20 years old. I can still plug it. If I can find a FireWire cable, I can plug it in, and my music's still on it. I was really into Britney Spears, apparently.
I go, Britney, yeah. Well,
I think my kids were using it.
One at a time, huh?
In any event, I think that's. If I were you, you're obviously a geek. You know how to, you know your way around a computer. I think you're going to fall in love. Manjaro.
Yeah, Manjaro. I've got it right here.
And they have instructions on how to make the USB key.
Okay.
Yep. Give it a try.
Yeah. I'll do it. I've got to do something with this. I've got apples, schmapples, and everything you could imagine.
It's just not safe to use that Windows XP OS, and so this is a good time to at least get something more modern on there. And why pay money for Windows 10 when you get Manjaro for free? And it's more secure.
I don't know if we're on the air or not, but I hate Microsoft. They just everything they do. They
You're among friends here.
Well, I'm just saying. I was going to ask you. I used to have a program called what was it called?
Open Office.
Yeah, Open Office.
So Manjaro comes with the modern version of that, which is LibreOffice. It's a fork of Open Office. You're going to love it. If you used to use Open Office, you won't be using any Microsoft tools unless you want to, but you don't have to. And it's stable, it's reliable, it works great. I think you're going to be very happy with it.
I'll do it. That gives me another project.
It's a great project. I spent a lot of time playing with Linux. I think it's wonderful.
No, you've talked it up for.
Yeah, you've heard me. Yeah.
So, but anyway, but Manjaro as opposed to Ubuntu, right?
Yeah, that's my favorite because it's more up to date. Ubuntu doesn't update as fast. It's a little bit more of a commercial operation.
Right.
I'm a Manjaro's community developed, and it gives you access. It's based on Arch, which gives you access to the broadest variety of third-party programs and stuff. I think it's very good. Very reliable. Your only decision will be when you get there. You'll see this. You'll have to choose which desktop environment you want. The most Windows-like, the one I use is GNOME, GNOME.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But there are others. On an older computer, you might want to try XFCE. That's lightweight. And so it might work better on the older. Just depends on how much RAM you have, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'll check out the RAM after we say goodbye. But and it's been interesting. I pulled this thing out and said, "My God!" And everything works, but the browsers. The browsers, I get a default on.
I gotta run. I gotta talk to Spaceman. Thank you, Ron.
Remember what a Barbadian is called?
Bayesian. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Time for Rod Pyle, Spaceman, author of Space 2.0, space.nss.org. And I can't hear him. Oh, Rod, I see you. I see you on your boat in San Diego. John, is he on Skype 1? Because I wanted to hear how your conference went this week. The Space Society put their conference on.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you now. Whatever
I'm
you
using my Mac speaker.
That's fine. You can use that. So
okay.
how did your NSS National Space Society event go?
It's good. We got many thousands of attendees, and it was popular enough that we're going to do it again next Saturday at 8 a.m.
You're going to do it again?
Same link. Yeah.
So what's the link again?
spacesettlement2021.nss.org.
Is it going to be a rerun, or are you going to do a whole new one?
No. Oh, God, no.
A rerun.
I'll change it a little bit.
It'll be a rerun.
Okay. And then we're going to do an asynchronous stream for India and China because we got a lot of interest there, and they don't want to stay up all night.
Oh, neat. Rebroadcast on Saturday and Sunday next week. That's wonderful. So what did we learn? Are we moving to Mars?
Someday. We're going to go to the moon first.
Yeah.
But this week we've got some really cool news coming up in the next couple of weeks. We have 3 Mars probes arriving at the Red Planet in the next 10 days or so.
3 of them? Why'd we send so many?
Well, we didn't. So the U.S. NASA sent Mars 2020. That's landing, fingers crossed, on February 18th. And that's that very hairy sky crane maneuver, as you know. But
that's the one. Wait a minute. So this is the funniest thing. When NASA's tried different ways to land on Mars, there was one where they were they had the bouncy house.
Right.
That the thing landed and bounced for a while. That worked okay. Now, the space crane they've used before, haven't they?
Yeah, that was for Curiosity. And the problem is Curiosity and Perseverance are too big and too complicated to bounce around that way. So and I had a long interview with Rob Manning, who's this delightful guy at JPL. He's the chief engineer now, who designed this stuff along with his team. And he said, we tried everything we could think of. And believe it or not, hovering and lowering that thing on those tethers is the simplest way to get it down there. Because when most of us first saw it, we went,
it looks complicated.
Is it April 1st?
Well, I thought the bouncy thing was kind of a joke too. So good.
Yeah.
All right,
so that's going to be the first.
Tell me about this rover, though. This is a big rover this time, right?
It's actually the same chassis and design as Curiosity. It's just got a very different instrument load.
Okay.
Everything's out on the end of the arm this time. There isn't a laboratory in the main chassis, but what is there is a system for drilling and caching core samples. So they're going to be able to leave core samples. They're going to take core samples as they go. They'll look at some of what they got and then leave them behind for another rover to pick up and bring back to Earth, we hope, in about 5 years.
Nice.
So that'll be the first sample return. But this particular mission, Perseverance, is actually an astrobiology mission. And we haven't tried that since Viking, where we kind of didn't really know very much about extreme life forms, right? So this one is going to be looking for fossils or possibly live microbes if they happen to spot those, and that's pretty exciting. And but when the Americans shoot Mars probes now, we don't go into orbit and then dilly-dally and look around and try and figure out where to go anymore. We just go straight in like a bullet from a hunting rifle. So everything's got to be perfect. Given that, this thing has a 5-mile wide landing zone, which is about a quarter of what it was last time.
That's so small. That's amazing.
It is. But it's got a thing called range trigger, which actually looks down where it's going and says, okay, there's a rock over there. There's a crater over there. Go here.
Kind of like Neil Armstrong did when he avoided the rock when he was landing in Apollo 11.
Yeah.
Don't go there.
On board, right?
Yeah. So Perseverance lands, in theory, on the 18th, right?
Right.
Okay. But that's not the only one.
That's not the only one. The United Arab Emirates has a mission called Hope that was launched on a Japanese rocket last year.
The UAE is going to Mars?
Yes. And it's a fairly simple mission. It's kind of a technology demonstrator, but they, that part of the world realizes oil isn't going to last forever, and they're trying very hard to develop the technology sector. So they put together a mission. They launched it on a Japanese rocket. It's primarily a weather tracker, so it's going to be looking at the Martian atmosphere, but that's arriving on the 9th. And then China has this 5-ton beast of a spacecraft, which is a little bit more like Viking. It's already sent back one photo, so we know it's working. That's arriving February 10th. It's called Tianwen-1, which translates, as you probably know, because you know Chinese, as questions to heaven.
Oh.
And it's an orbiter and a lander and a rover.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So if that works, they'll be only the second country in history to successfully land a spacecraft on Mars that works. The Soviets had one that worked for about 30 seconds, but so far we've been the lone record holders there. So it's
going to be a traffic jam on Mars.
That's a float. Well, don't forget, we got like 8 orbiters going around the planet already. So it's starting to look like the 110 freeway during rush hour.
Now, is this Perseverance? Is this the one with your name on it?
Well, it doesn't have my name on it, sadly. But yes, there's a wafer on it, a silicon wafer that has, I think, 1 million names on it.
10.9 million names.
Was yours on there?
No.
Oh.
Plus 155 essays on NASA's Name the Rover contest.
Yeah.
Wow. And you get a souvenir boarding pass if you did it. That's the only thing I'd like. But
and those were pretty cool. I saw
those were really cool
online, and they were neat.
Yeah.
So that's a heck of a 2-week period, and then of course we've got SpaceX doing its thing. You probably saw the SN9 serial number 9 launch
and crash
last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, and once again the popular media goes SpaceX rocket explodes, and that's not the point. The point is, will it launch? Will it hover? Will it flip over? Will it glide? Will it reorient itself? If you remember the Falcon 9, a lot of those blew up before he got it right. But he did get it right.
It's the hard part. Exactly. They're doing all the important stuff, but then the idea that they're going to bring it back to Earth and land it so they can reuse it, that's pretty difficult to do. And it just fell over. It's not it's not the worst.
Well, it hit pretty hard. But,
it hit hard and then fell over.
Even more impressively, though, it came back right next to SN10, which is going up in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And his ultimate goal is to bring it back right to the launch gantry and grab it when it lands.
You know that Elon will do it. You know Elon will totally do it because he's just crazy. I mean, he's just got more guts than anybody, and he knows it's good marketing as well as good business. So he'll do it. Yeah,
and he is so driven. And then, did you hear about the Inspiration 4 mission?
No, tell me about that one. What's that one?
This is an all-civilian flight that's supposed to go at the end of 2021.
I did hear about this one. Yes.
Yeah, Jared Isaacman, who's Shift for Payments, basically bought the ride.
A tech CEO, and he's going to bring 3 people along with him.
And he's going to fly it. There's no astronaut on this.
He's a pilot. He's as much of an astronaut as John Glenn was. I mean, he's a pilot.
I guess, but wouldn't you be nervous?
No, I'd be nervous if I was one of the 3 people. They said, you're going to have some training, but you're going later this year. It's not going to be a lot of training. You're basically along for the ride. It looks like a comfy ride. Yeah. It is in that beautiful Dragon capsule.
It's a big capsule.
You get to wear the modern space suit. It looks like it was designed by Steven Spielberg, and it'll be good.
Supposedly it was designed by the same guy who did the Iron Man costume.
But there you go. I wasn't wrong.
And I thought that was so fitting. And I really love that he's dedicating this to St. Jude's Hospital.
Yes. In fact.
So he's taking a St. Jude's employee, right?
Yeah. And if you want to be on the flight, you can by donating to St. Jude's. You could be in the
and that's going to be on a Super Bowl ad.
Oh, is it? We'll watch it this afternoon.
Yeah.
He's the rocket man, Elon Musk. That's the real rocket man.
He is,
Yes.
and it's incredible.
Rod
So,
Pyle, you gotta join the NSS space.nss.org. I mean, that's Mad Magazine. That's not it. Get the Ad Astra magazine that he edits. His books are fabulous, and he joins us every week. Thank you, Rod.
Thank you so much.
NSS, the National Space Society. Wait a minute. Here it is. Too many magazines.
I think Mad may have had more readers than sure.
This is Dick D. Bart. See, I have these sample issues so I can hold them up, and that's Dick D. Bartolo's. So did they say how they're going to pick these civilians that are going along with Jared? I mean, how they're going to do that? Is that
no detail there? Just that one of them will be from a broad civilian base from the Super Bowl ad, and the other one has to be a St. Jude's employee. But I thought
I would hope
so neat.
I would hope that maybe there's a drawing, but then there's some screening involved. There has to be. There has to be, right? You know, when I was a kid, they always told me, "Oh, you can never be an astronaut. You wear glasses." I thought, well, that's rotten. Well, now anybody can go.
Anybody except people with claustrophobia, which I have a little bit of. And the SpaceX capsule is big, but you're going to be up there for probably 3 or 4 days on that particular flight.
Oh, I'd love to.
So you got to be comfortable with small spaces.
I'd do it. Just give me some Ambien and I'll be fine. You slept through the whole thing. Was I there? Yeah.
Right.
No, I would really I mean, that is so cool. I would love to do that.
It's really incredible. And that's a proven spacecraft. You know, the Starship is going to be an experiment for a couple more years, I think.
I understand. And there is, let's not downplay. This is dangerous. It is not, I mean, it's not like, it's risky. You're riding a giant bomb into the air. But
it's a bomb with an outlet on one end, right?
A bomb with a hole, and you're just hoping that it's pointed the right way. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah, we were looking at that. There's a web page where you can apply, and I was looking at that. That's really neat. Really neat.
And then they've got a little later. They've got the Japanese billionaire who's going to be looping the moon with 7 of his closest friends, I guess, artists and poets. And
it's called they call these a rideshare mission, as low as $1 million.
Yeah, that one he paid a couple billion for. I think he underwrote a big percentage of a Starship build. And then there's finally the tourist mission going up, which is going to be commanded by an astronaut, Michael Lopez Alegria, who holds a number of records with the International Space Station, and that's going to be along with 3 true tourists. So up to this point, we've only had 7 or 8 tourists up in space, so this will be the big one. But you gotta pay an extra $35,000 a day to NASA for air and toilet privileges on the space station.
And you probably do want to pay for those. I mean, I think so. It's probably a good investment. Oh, I can't wait to see the Super Bowl ad. That's going to be cool.
That will be cool. And
so I was mocking the fact that Jared was not an astronaut and all that, and everybody said, no. This guy is a hell of a pilot. He's kind of a legendary pilot. So it's not, he's as much of a pilot as the guys who did the early Gemini and Mercury programs. I imagine the thing flies itself pretty much.
It's pretty automated, and it is all glass panel displays, but they've got critical push buttons for things like abort and parachute deploy and all that. So you're not, if your panel locks up. Abort. Yeah, because it's running on some retail software.
You sound really good, even if you're not on your mic. So this is always a good fallback, by the way. Yeah. Well, you know what you're doing right. You're leaning into it, so you're close enough that we're getting good sound. So yeah. I don't know what happened. You're muted somewhere.
I don't know. It's weird because I'm not muted on my end, but I'll have to check with John and see if maybe I hooked up the Focusrite wrong.
Oh, he sent you one. Oh, good. That's probably what it is. Yeah. I got to run. Thank you, Rod. Always great.
Thank you.
Take care.
See you next week.
Got more books, by the way. Thank you.
Awesome. You bet.
Well, I got some thank yous to do. Got to thank Professor Laura, our musical director, has been challenging us with Super Bowl trivia all day. Thanks to Kim Schaffer, our phone angel. She's the one who answers your call, gets your cowlick in place, and powders your nose for your parents on national radio. And, of course, most importantly, thanks to you for listening, for calling, for being a part of this great Tech Guy family. We really appreciate it. I really do. Take a few more calls before we wrap this thing up. Let's say hi to Augusto in Toronto, Canada. Hello, Augusto.
Hi, how are you, Leo? I had a traumatic experience about a year ago before COVID, so I'm extremely emotional and have a hard time talking. But I found that doing art and stuff grounds me.
Nice.
And and I would like to know if there's any easy way that you can. I started to do art again because it helps me get grounded, along with listening to your shows in the background.
Oh, Augusto, I love you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And I just revisited art. I went to an art school when I was younger, and so I started redoing all this art. And
What kind of art do you do? Tell me about your art a little bit.
I paint, I draw, and I create 3D sculptures and stuff. But
that sounds wonderful.
One of a kind items. But I bought a mug off you and T-shirts. But I can make prints of my items and maybe try to sell. I'm not trying to make money for myself.
No, there's a couple of. So you want to sell some of your art? Do you want to sell originals, or you just want to sell prints and giclées and things like that?
I guess the reprints, because the pieces, my original ones, I don't know if some of them I have a hard time letting go.
Yeah. Well, sell prints. Then you can sell them less expensively and you can make more of them. You can always do, as a lot of artists do, numbered and signed prints so that they at least have some value, but it's completely up to you. Of course, the first place you should absolutely look is Etsy. Etsy is the website dedicated to handmade, vintage, custom, and unique gifts. It says that on the front page. But there are a lot of artists who have created Etsy shops. I think if you had the Augusto shop on Etsy, just look in the art section. They have prints, photography. They sell paintings, oil, watercolor, acrylic, sculpture, absolutely. And the reason it's good to be on Etsy is because people go to Etsy to look for exactly that kind of thing. So I think you put your art, especially if you tell your story. Now, this is the other thing you might want to look to do. In fact,
I just don't want attention. That's one of the things I don't like. Any of that. So
you don't want any like personal attention. So
they can just look at my art.
Yeah. So here's what I would suggest, Augusto. The Etsy store does not have to have your name on it. You can have most people use some sort of handle. We were talking about handles. Use some sort of handle so it's not your personal. And I think you're absolutely right. Even people who don't have traumatic experiences in their past get public on the internet, and it's a nightmare. It could be a traumatic experience. So let's not be public. Let's use a fake name. Don't post a picture of yourself. Don't say where you are. But you can totally do that on Etsy. You don't have to. You don't have to reveal anything personal. The other thing you might want to look at doing, and it could tie very well with the Etsy thing, and this might not fit in with what you just told me, but I was also thinking a personal website. You could do this anonymously, tell your story. I think telling your story might be helpful for other people in the same situation, but you don't have to use your real name, Do you do any writing at all, Augusto?
I write, but I sort of, my spelling, my writing stuff is sort of going.
Okay. So don't do the writing, but do the art. I think art is wonderful. I do think people would, I appreciate your story. I appreciate hearing your story. And it gives the art, the piece, more meaning if you know a little bit. So, and again, I think you can do that without revealing who you really are. It's just a story, right? And I think that Etsy is a great place to look at. And I think having a website that tells, this is what I would do. And again, you have to make sure that this fits your interests and needs. But I would say make a website. You can do this for free on a lot of places. Google has Blogspot. There's WordPress.com. Squarespace.com costs a little bit of money. But one of the things about WordPress and Squarespace, they do have online stores. So you could even create a site that has its own online store, depending on how much energy you wanted to put into it. I love the idea, though, of you having a website. You know, I talked to somebody a couple of weeks ago who does tiny origami, right? And she sent me some of her tiny origami. It's beautiful work. She can sell it online. She actually has an Instagram. Again, you don't have to reveal any personal details. Don't put any pictures of yourself in. You don't have to say where you are. But you're sharing your art with people, and I think that might be very satisfying for you. A website would be the place you say, hi, don't call yourself Augusto. Call yourself Novembero or something, and say, hi, I'm Aprilo, and this is my site. This is my story. This is why I make art. This is what my art means to me. And this is some art that's for sale. And you could do it on the site, like I said, with WordPress or Squarespace. But I think better to let Etsy handle it. And so you say, here's my work. Here's my Etsy store. You'll see this all over the place. You create an Etsy store that's your brand, your art, your sculpture, and you link to it from a website. I like the idea of the website because I think it's a way that you can tell more about your story. You're in complete control of it. No one has to know who you are or where you are, but you can tell your story in a safe way, and then you can send people to your Etsy site. And the chat room, Augusto, chat room is saying, please stay in touch. We want to know when you set up the store because I think you might have some people who want to buy.
Okay, that's cool. Could I just say one thing?
Sure.
I just wanted to make money to help pay. Or there's a hospital in Toronto. It's called CAMH, and I don't have any way to repay them. They help everyone. I just want people to know that mental health is real for everyone, and whatever mental health place is in their area, maybe to help. But for me and anyone who listens in Toronto, CAMH has been really helpful for me, and I just wanted to pass that message. And thank you, Leo, for being there and all of your Twitch shows.
Bless you, Augusto. You're getting a lot of love from me and the chat room, too. And they all want to know when you set up your store. And CAMH, the Center for Addiction and Mental Health, is a very well-known center in Toronto. I'm glad you found them. I'm glad they were able to help you. CAMH.ca. I'm familiar with them. And bless you, Augusto. Thank you. It took, I think, some nerve to call. I think it's scary for everybody. But I'm glad you wanted to call in, and I'm glad we could talk and hang in there. And thank you for, you know what? I think you just did a favor to a lot of people by telling them about CAMH. CAMH.ca. And I'm completely with you. I think mental health is a big issue that we cover up in this country, obviously in Canada, I think all over the world. And it's widespread. Almost everybody knows people with mental health issues. Many of our listeners are suffering in various ways, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. There's no stigma. It's just what happens to us. It's kind of one of the things that always amazes me is the human brain is so complex, so little understood, so fragile in so many ways, and just one little thing goes wrong, and people go, "Oh no, I don't want to hear about that." You know, it's out there, and we need to support our fellow man. Gusto, great to talk to you. Stay well, my friend. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Have a great Geek Week. Bye-bye. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWiT, TWiT. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on MacBreak Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.